Look, we are going to completely revolutionize how you look at your personal wellness. We are tossing out the idea of treating your health as some, fleeting seasonal project that's just defined by a random number on a scale. Instead, we're going to treat it as a systematic optimization of your biological and psychological hardware. Think of this as your architectural blueprint for a complete 360-degree system upgrade. So let's start by addressing the elephant in the room. Why do most wellness resolutions fail? I mean, we've all been there, right? January 1st rolls around. We get this massive burst of sporadic motivation, and then by February, we are just completely burned out. Well, that happens because most wellness advice is totally fragmented. It treats the body like a collection of isolated parts instead of a cohesive, high-functioning machine. Today, we are shifting away from those temporary band-aids and moving toward a permanent system of self-governance. Okay, here is the game plan for our architectural blueprint today. We'll start with the boot up, which is our biology-first approach, then hardware maintenance through fueling and strengthening. Next, we'll establish a firewall for your emotional perimeter. After that, we do our software updates with a mindset growth loop. And finally, downtime and IT support focusing on system recovery. Let's jump in. Let's kick things off right now with phase 1, the boot up, the biology-first approach. The core philosophy here is super straightforward. Physical stability literally has to precede mental growth. To run high-level psychological software, we first have to make sure our biological hardware isn't constantly crashing. You simply cannot foster a resilient growth mindset if your body feels like it's in a constant state of emergency because of, say, unstable blood sugar. When you're biologically unstable, you are quite literally leaking energy on internal survival repair rather than directing it toward your actual ambitions. Here is the big takeaway. Your psychological output is strictly limited by your metabolic input. If your blood sugar is a roller coaster, your body forces all its resources right into survival mode. But by viewing every single grocery trip and every calendar event as a compounding investment, you completely remove the need for that fleeting motivation we talked about. You start building lasting vitality through permanent self-governance. Moving right along to phase 2, hardware maintenance, fueling, and strengthening. So the food industry relies pretty heavily on marketing tricks. Buzzwords like all natural are rarely regulated, and honestly, they usually just mask processed ingredients designed specifically to trigger your cravings. The actual nutrition reality means looking way past those flashy front-of-pack claims and scrutinizing the ingredient list for hidden sugars and inflammatory agents. This requires what I like to call intellectual boundary setting at the grocery store. Refusing to consume what doesn't serve you is step number 1 to protecting your hardware. Practically speaking, anti-inflammatory eating is exactly how we stabilize the system, because chronic inflammation is the silent thief of your vitality. So how do we fix it? Add antioxidant-rich spices like turmeric, ginger, and cinnamon to combat oxidative stress. Eat fermented foods to support your gut microbiome, which, by the way, is absolutely essential for your emotional well-being. And make smart, easy swaps. Ditch refined flours for almond flour. Grab a bunless burger to dodge processed wheat. Go for roasting or steaming over deep frying. These are simple kitchen strategies that drastically reduce systemic inflammation, and you don't even have to deal with the strict restriction of traditional dieting. Of course, fueling the machine is really only half of hardware maintenance. We also have to move it. Regular physical activity is without a doubt your most potent tool against chronic illness. A heart-healthy diet paired with consistent cardio, even if it's literally just brisk walking, lowers your cortisol and primes your nervous system to handle daily stress. Meanwhile, strength training, that is the ultimate act of self-empowerment. It boosts your bone density and ramps up your metabolic rate. So, whether you work with a personal trainer or follow a structured program like Better Me with Body by Bree, building functional fitness is mandatory for your physical integrity. I really want you to lock in on this guiding principle. The best fitness routine is the one you can maintain for a decade. Seriously, avoid the all-or-nothing burnout. Intensity is entirely secondary to consistency. Prioritize the exact kind of movement that just keeps you coming back day after day. All right. On to phase 3, the firewall. This is where we establish your emotional perimeter. We usually think of boundaries as strictly a mental health concept, right? But emotional exhaustion is actually a direct byproduct of lacking boundaries. When you neglect your emotional perimeter, your body gets stuck in a state of chronic sympathetic nervous system activation. In other words, you are permanently trapped in fight or flight mode. And this is huge. Ignoring your emotional perimeter actively damages your physical cardiovascular health over time. Your hardware takes a massive hit when your firewall is down. So to protect yourself, you need specific security solutions. First, physical and sexual boundaries. These simply define where you end and others begin. Second, time boundaries. These guard your focus against the constant online attacks of modern life, the endless notifications and external demands. And third, material and financial boundaries ensure your resources are directed toward your own personal growth. Rather than being drained by impulsive spending or obligations, you've got to protect your system from malformed data. This means mastering assertiveness is critical. Learning to just say no without providing some elaborate, drawn-out justification is not an act of selfishness. It is a sign of high self-respect. It's a fundamental security measure for your long-term success. Guard your energy period. Moving to Phase 4, software updates. The mindset growth loop. If you want to upgrade your psychological software through behavioral discipline, you have to cultivate a growth mindset. Internal resistance, that's just a sign you're leaving your comfort zone. When you feel that discomfort, you are not failing. A true growth mindset reframes that exact feeling as the necessary friction required for any meaningful change. Think of it like this. It's just a system update installing. Now, to turn your intentions into actual reality and to drastically reduce your cognitive load, you must program your objectives using the SMART goals framework. By ensuring your behavioral change strategies are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound, you leave absolutely zero room for ambiguity. You create a beautifully clear, step-by-step path to getting things done. Another massive software update you need is mindfulness and meditation. Incorporating these into your daily routine acts as an essential buffer against the high-pressure lives we all lead. By training your mind to just observe thoughts without judgment, you actively downregulate your body's stress response. You are literally catching and neutralizing stress before it can damage your physical hardware or lead to emotional burnout. And finally, Phase 5, downtime and IT support, system recovery. Look. Your sleep schedule is the absolute foundation of all physical and cognitive repair. Without deep restorative sleep, no amount of perfect nutrition or intense exercise is going to save you from burnout. You have to treat self-care and stress management techniques like intentional digital disconnects, not as a luxury, but as a high-stakes appointment. Make it a non-negotiable discipline. And remember, the absolute smartest systems out there, they leverage external expertise. Never ever hesitate to get professional IT support for your life. A nutrition specialist or holistic wellness expert can give you that necessary dietary structure. Coaches like the ones at BetterUp offer incredible behavioral accountability. And if you're hitting persistent mental blocks, consult therapist directories or resources like the American Psychiatric Association to help you reset. It's just smart maintenance. Becoming the healthiest version of yourself is an act of total self-governance. You've got to treat your health like it's your most important national security asset. Guard it, optimize it, and never stop refining it. Start with daily compounding progress. So, I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. Out of all the system upgrades we talked about today, what is the one SMART goal you are going to implement right now? Trust the process and happy upgrading!